Hello, everybody.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Indeed. Does it matter? I mean, these days, the mornings and the afternoons all run together, and the weekdays and the weekends are just about the same.
We have David Wright and Margot.
We got Margo and Carla's there. Hi, Carla. How are you? Carla's on mute, and then a caller three. Oh, there's Margo. Hi there. Oh, she's connecting to audio. There she is. Hi, Margo.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good, good. This is a real great service.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
And if you want to hand over, JJ, I can start running here.
Oh, yes, I can do that. Yeah. Antonio, I just got a call. Let's see. Hey, there's Bert. Make host. There you go. Change host.
Perfect. Great. We're all set.
Hi, JJ.
How's it going?
Just fine. Let me see if I got
Good.
my speaker on. Yeah. Good.
So far, so good.
Well, this is only my second one today. Sometimes it's three.
Yeah, sometimes it's three or more.
Yes.
If you're my wife, you're on for hours and hours and hours of pointless meetings all the
Oh,
time. Which
really?
I guess is much like her day at work, except it's she's not going to get sick from these pointless meetings. So
I see. Well, I wonder if this is going to be the new normal.
it's going to be more of this than they used to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just hoping it really affects the traffic, and because it's so beautiful outside every day.
Well, that's true. And I was telling John when I came in, I can't believe that the parking meters are giving us a break. It was 50 cents an hour to park my car at the meter, and you don't even actually really have to pay. But
Well, yeah, that's because of restrictions on being in the car in the first place.
Oh,
yes,
car. That's the thing. It's in my garage.
yeah.
I haven't seen it in so long. I didn't know.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the place where Michelle's coworkers take the calls when they can't get away from their children. In the car.
Yeah. Hey, haven't I seen you before?
Yeah, right. You look familiar.
Yeah.
Hello, gentlemen.
There's Josh. How are you?
Josh, how are you, Josh?
Oh, you too.
Joshua.
Hey, Joel.
Let me see here. How's everything with the kids?
Busy.
You still love them?
I do. Bonding in new ways that I didn't anticipate.
Yeah, no one did.
Yeah,
No one did.
yeah. It's nice. It's hard to work, but it's nice.
If I put up this background, is it too distracting for everybody?
Is that The Simpsons?
Yeah. Or that one.
Oh God.
Am I the only one who's in
Or
compliance there?
where I was supposed to be this week was this one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this was supposed to be my vacation week.
Where?
Hawaii.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we were going to be on the beach in Maui. It's going to look just like this with a little less wind.
Yeah.
So yeah, Antonio, before about 45 minutes ago, I got a call from J.K. Deneen from the Chronicle asking for exactly the information I'm just about to give everybody today.
Oh, perfect.
So I gave him a dry run of this presentation before everybody got on the call, and so it'll be in the Chronicle this weekend. All the statistics and the data that we had together. So that was good.
Good. Excellent. That's fantastic. Looks like we have
Hi,
an
John.
all-star lineup here.
Yeah.
I see John signed in.
John's on the call. He wants to make sure he knows what I'm talking about in case anybody asks some questions.
We got Kirk and Lisa and
Yep.
Nancy. Yeah.
Hey, there's Jerry. Hi, Jerry. How are you?
I'm sure Jerry could hear you.
Yep.
Jerry, you there?
I'm here.
There we go.
Oh, there you are. You were muted. Okay. How's it going?
Hey, going good, JJ.
Good.
Definitely interesting times.
Yes, definitely interesting times is right. I wish it wasn't so interesting. It makes me appreciate how uninteresting this business was a couple of months ago. Of course the rent's going to come in. What are we talking about? The rent always comes in.
So you think May 4th is really going to be the date that they're going to lift this shelter in place?
No, that's not true. I think next month's calls late in the first week of the month, early second week are going to be when these statistics start to really look ugly. I think a lot of people are hanging on right now, but it may not continue to be as beneficial or as positive as this goes on longer and longer. So we will see how that goes.
Excuse me?
I'll turn mine down.
Oh, I'll have to figure it out.
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
So just a little bit of housekeeping, folks, here for those who are new to the call here. If you actually can mute your own microphone, then you can unmute your microphone if you have a question, and or I can mute your microphone for you if you're having any issues here, and I can unmute you if you'd like to speak. And we'll get started just momentarily.
I expect they'll start opening it up when they can certify that you're carrying antibodies, and then they'll start releasing people gradually. But I think it'll be a gradual process if it's like China and the other countries.
So I'm just trying to figure out where that.
They're doing some testing for antibodies in Stanford, right?
Hey there, Kevin Brunner. How are you?
Good, JJ.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. How's everybody doing there?
We're all healthy, and I'm trying to maintain my sanity in a house with a 5-year-old and 11-month-old today. But
That's another kettle of fish entirely.
and 2 full-time jobs. I was telling everybody this was supposed to be my vacation week. We're going to be on the beach in Maui, and now vacation is 2 hours in the office, a Zoom call with my clients, and a trip to Safeway. So
Yeah.
Hey, it's good to see you, Kevin. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's okay. I'm still here. That's an achievement in itself.
That's huge. Cool. That's awesome. I didn't expect to see you. What a treat.
Well, it's a treat for me to see you too. How's the family?
Everybody's great.
Oh, I'm so good.
My oldest got married in
Oh,
September.
you're kidding me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, folks, but we go back a very, very long way. Oh, gee.
And she, as you probably recall or may recall, the first place that she came home to was 24th Street,
Oh, I remember.
Little Sydney.
Oh my God.
Uh,
Oh,
she's a kindergarten teacher now, and to speak to JJ's point about full-time job, it's like trying to teach kindergartners remotely. Tells these stories like you look at, they're all muted, of course, and then she'll look at the screen and all of a sudden she'll see a foot or a dog or like a big brother. I mean, it's just hysterical. It's just
it's amazing. It's
The
amazing.
level of chaos is uncontrollable. All right. Well, I think it looks like we're about almost 5 minutes after. It's probably a good time to get started. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see all of you. Thank you for joining me today. I'll get started. First, I want to introduce also Josh Silverman, our senior sales agent, is going to be joining us as well to present on a little bit about what's going on in the sales market and talk about listings and things like that. And he'll be here to chat with you. So go ahead and say hi, Josh, so your face goes up on everybody's screen. Say hi, Josh.
Oh, hi. I thought you were saying, yeah. Hi,
No,
how
not-
you guys doing? Good to see you all.
Not wave. We can't hear your hands.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the most important thing about today's meeting is that the news is actually pretty good. It is surprising, but we're at 93+% of rent collected here on the 8th of the month. And I'll break that down for you. We have 519 apartments in the portfolio. We have about 35 vacancies that are in various stages of disrepair and in the process of getting renovated, which obviously a lot of that is under wraps right now, can't be completed because we're not allowed to do those sorts of construction projects at this time. So figure we're expecting rent from 484 units out of 519 this month. And we have 454, only 30 units didn't pay rent as expected. Among those 484 units and 454 that did pay, 14 units asked for a deferral, and they provided us with adequate documentation. So by adequate documentation, it was simply approaching us to say, I'm going to need a deferral, and here's some sort of proof that I've lost my job or that my ability to pay is going to be compromised. So I saw emails from CEOs of companies saying I can't continue to pay the team's salary while the company is not able to operate. Interestingly, one of the first ones I saw was from a tech company, which I would have thought the company would be able to operate remotely, but they said it wasn't. And in that circumstance, that tenant approached first and said, can I have April? And I said, well, maybe you'd like, if you've only lost one income in your household, would you like to maybe split that across April and May and take half in each month? And they said, gee, that sounds like a great idea. And they still have one income, that one partner is able to continue to work even though they're not able to go into the office. So half of my deferrals paid some sort of a partial rent, about 7, and one of them was as low as $200 out of the $1,800 rent. And some of them were, the majority of the rent, 60, 70, 80% of the rent, based on the fact that a roommate lost their employment and the other roommates were able to continue to pay rent. So they just needed a partial deferral. We also have 10 units that are due to pay rent at some point between the 14th and the 20th of the month. So of those 10, we may have a few more who aren't going to tell us or are going to ask us now because their due date's not quite up. And then I had one tenant who underpaid by 22% with no explanation of why. I think that was a $24.50 rent that was underpaid by $550, which is strange. And then 3 who didn't pay and didn't ask for didn't provide any explanation, didn't say that they were having a hard time because of their employment. I also got one who's currently involved in an eviction proceeding. We have a stipulation for entry of judgment for continued habitual late payment or non-payment. And so we ended up signing that. I don't know how that's going to play out, but we'll have that in the attorney's hands. The commercial tenants are 30 commercial tenants in our portfolio, and 20 haven't paid. And they all approached me pretty early on and said, gee, I'm not going to be able to pay. 10 have paid in full. One of them is me, because we're still open and my staff still needs a place to work. And what I'm going to do, stiff the old man for the rent. I'm not going to do that. But the others that were able to pay, I have a variety of tenants who, for whatever reason, are still, they're still operating or are able to pay. I've got a nail salon, interestingly, that paid the rent and then texted me a few days into the month to say, "Oh, I heard you're giving away free rent." And I said, no, we're not giving away free rent. And he asked me to send his check back. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to assume he probably won't pay next month. But it was very strange that he didn't call me beforehand. I've also got, a couple of grocery stores, a few retail businesses that have continued to pay, an optometrist and a pizza shop. So, a few people who, for whatever reason are still operating and still feel comfortable with making the payments, which I appreciate. And I'm glad for. Interestingly, one unintended, one that surprised me, we manage from one of our long-term clients, the building on the corner of 22nd and Valencia, where Boogaloo's restaurant is located. There's 5 businesses in that building, and it's only businesses. So I told them immediately when this happened that they should expect to get almost none of the rent. They have a restaurant, a bar, a hair salon, a retail clothing store, and a laundromat. And I thought, well, the laundromat should still be able to pay the rent. I mean, they shouldn't have too much of a reduction in their rent. And the owner of the laundromat called me last week and said, since the shelter-in-place order was given, he'd made less than $300 that people even aren't going out to do their laundry right now. So that's the summary. I mean, 93% of people paying rent. I'm expecting that this is going to probably start to change next month. We'll probably receive more requests for deferrals. It's hard to predict what that's going to look like. But I'm encouraged by the fact that it seems like people really do, in general, seem to pride themselves on paying their bills and doing so on time. And they are, they're working with us on this, and we are grateful for their, honesty and stepping forward and asking for help. The other aspect of this is, our vacancies. The vacancies aren't necessarily caused by the shelter-in-place. People aren't giving us notice in droves that they're leaving. I have had a few people who, for whatever reason, have given us notice. I had one who gave notice. It was the week of the shelter-in-place order. He basically said, I went home when this started to get bad to Los Angeles, and I'd like to be gone in a month, but I still have all my stuff up there. And could you quarterback my move for me by, letting the movers in and so I don't have to come back? And I said, no, you can come back. Los Angeles is not, across the world. You can get in the car and come up here and move out. But, I may get more of those kinds of requests. As I mentioned before we got started here, I just got a call from the Chronicle from J.K. Deneen, who's doing a story on what's going on with coronavirus and rent payments. And so I gave him all this information. And one question that he asked me was whether we're hearing from people that they might be, because they've been working remotely for so long, might be more willing to relocate to somewhere less expensive. And maybe we should expect people leaving San Francisco in droves as a result of this, because why would they stay here? And I think, that could be possible, but I also think the flaw in that logic is that people aren't they're not here because it's expensive. They're here despite the fact that it's expensive. And they're probably not going to want to, all the stuff that we can't do right now that we're sheltering in place is the stuff that they're here for. The bars, the restaurants, the culture, the nightlife, all that kind of stuff. And, I think people are going to really be able to appreciate more why San Francisco is so great when they get back to what they're doing. So I'm hoping that it becomes the case when everything starts to recover. You know, the vacancies are going to be a real challenge. You know, we're not allowed to do the sort of elective construction, the stuff that's not related to basic health and safety. And so that's going to be a challenging thing for all of you guys who have vacancies right now, including us upstairs. From our office here, we've got a unit empty. And, you know, right now, actually, at this very minute, we have a provider upstairs that took a little bit of time to schedule this, but we do have somebody who's doing virtual tours, getting ready to do that for this unit and 2 others that we have vacant. We've discussed this with our clients. We'll still show these units if people express an interest. From the leasing side of things, we've had almost no expressed interest. And I talked to a friend whose business is primarily leasing, who said that even he tracks Craigslist ads as a way of you know, getting a sense of what is on the market. And he said that the volume of Craigslist ads has dropped. And so people are holding on to their units. I don't know if this is going to be something that causes the rental market to collapse at any point in the near future. Right now, everybody seems to be holding their breath. The whole market is sort of frozen. People aren't looking at apartments unless they absolutely have to. And people aren't putting apartments out there unless they absolutely must. And we're trying to really observe as much as we can the safe practices. And so with that, I want to introduce Josh Silverman, our senior sales agent, who's on the call today as well, to sort of talk about some of the best practices with showing vacancies, because this is going to be a challenge that we're all going to face with vacancies in the next couple of months. And, you know, we have to be patient. Pricing wise, it's important that we understand that we're in a very difficult situation, and we really need to hold on tight and stick to, you know, the basics and the values of what we believe our units are worth. And so let me have Josh take over from here and tell us a little bit more about best practices for showing both apartments and properties for sale, and then talk a little bit about the sale market in San Francisco.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So in terms of showing properties, what we can't do is we can't have any open houses, and we can't have any broker tours that's on the sales side. So there's just basically no group showings available whatsoever. So that makes it very difficult to market properties, obviously. And then what we can do is we're allowed to show a property, a private showing, to 2 people at a vacant property only, not a occupied property. So selling occupied apartments or homes or condos is out of the question right now. You can't even go into them. But if it's a vacant property, I as an agent can bring in 2 people to show that property. On top of that, there's all these disinfecting rules that you have to follow. So when you go in, you're not supposed to be touching surfaces. When you do, the agent has to go back and clean things up. Those issues are fine. You can definitely follow that protocol and clean up properties as you come and go. It's tricky. It's tricky. Obviously, we want to be doing group showings, in particular with sales, and we just can't right now. So that's a big limitation in terms of showing. The virtual tours, so everybody's trying to push, our Realtor Association is trying to push everything to virtual tours. And so where you can come in with a professional photographer and map the property and do virtual tours and post them online. So we're really kind of being more encouraged to do exclusively virtual tours when we can, but we are allowed to do these private tours. So that's essentially in a nutshell what's going on in regards to how we can market properties right now. I can give kind of an assessment of what's going on, what's happening in the market in regards to sales. sales are down. Surprise, surprise. In March of 2019, in San Francisco, there were 530 closings. In March of this year, there were 458. Not a huge drop off, right? So March was okay. March kind of held its own because the shelter in place kicked in, was it mid-March, the more official one. So things that were already kind of in process have been closing in March. Then you jump over to the first week in April. In 2019, there were 129 closings. In 2020, the first week in April, 48. So you have a 63% drop in closings. So a few things are happening in regards to that. There are listings that are falling out of contract. That's one thing. So people who are in contract are pulling the deal. People are losing jobs while in contract or having reductions, or everything's thrown up into the air while in contract. So there's a lot of cancellations. The bigger issue is people are just pulling properties off the market completely. And so because of the difficulties attached to showing properties and marketing them properly, people are just pulling their properties from the market. And so what I expect, so if we have a 63% drop in the first week of April, I just expect it to be like that or worse through April and into May. People are just, both buyers and sellers are going to the sidelines simultaneously. There's definitely going to still be activity in the market. Some people have to buy and have to sell. So there's always going to be transactions. I think there's going to be some buying opportunities when this is over. There's going to be a glut of properties that are going to hit the market when this is over. But right now, essentially, everybody's just kind of not doing anything. Investment funds have kind of gone to the sidelines. There's a feature on our MLS that you can put a property on hold. So there's currently 266 properties in San Francisco that have moved to hold status. So that's people who are on the market, and then all of this hit, and they don't want the days on market to tick upward because it looks like a stale listing. So the association has given us this option of putting properties on hold. So a lot of people have done that, 266 in particular. So those properties, they're just kind of in a holding pattern. They're just sitting there. So, I just don't see any big changes coming on the horizon in regards to these numbers. I don't see, it's just frozen. The market is essentially just frozen. I do have, so I have two properties on the market that are kind of interesting stories as it relates to what's going on. I have a residential, a condo in Walnut Creek that I'm representing the buyer for. And this buyer was able to pull funds out of the market for their down payment in December prior to the crash. They had the money. We were in contract when all of this hit. We debated extensively whether to pull out or not. But given the fact they had their down payment pre-crash, hard to find a property, hard to get into contract, and so we were debating whether prices were going to drop and were we paying too much right now, and we decided I think we were okay in that sense at the price we were at. What was happening with interest rates is they were all over the map over the last 3 weeks. I mean, just bouncing around like crazy. And so our lender wasn't locking a rate for us. We were saying, I need to wait. And every day you're seeing fluctuations of a full point over the course of days. We finally did lock a rate at 3.25%, which I thought was great. So with lower interest rate, buyer funds, we're moving forward. We're going to close this thing. On the other side, I also have a commercial listing on the market. So this is a mixed-use building over in the inner Richmond on Balboa Street. I was showing it, having open houses, having some activity on it, and then this crisis hit, and it just went dark. It just went completely dark. I mean, the investors I was talking to were just like, I'm not doing anything right now. I'm out. And so that property has just kind of gone dormant right now. I'm actually not using the hold function because I figure people are still going to shop and look online, and it's available across the web. So I'm keeping it there. I'm not using the hold function, but I'm not expecting any activity on that. I think there are going to be people who are going to be looking for deals. There's going to be people out there who are going to try to exploit the crisis to a certain degree and get a good deal. And if that happens, so be it. That's part of the business. But essentially, it's a wait and see market. And you know, the big question is, when does this end? I mean, in rental and in sales, when does this end? When do we get back to something more normal? You want to talk about this chart, JJ?
Well, actually, yeah, if you want to bring up the chart, we can do that. I also think, we were talking about this right before we formally got started, and Bert mentioned, this is going to be a slow rolling out of the process, which is interesting because it'll also be, I think, in a lot of ways, a slow thawing of the conditions in the market as people start to become accustomed to living life under shelter in place, and they, we can be reassured that at least the peak of the graph in San Francisco and in the Bay Area maybe has passed, but it's still not. We're not out of dangerous territory yet. People will come back to the market slowly, one by one. It's not going to all hit the market at the same time, which is good because it won't allow us. It won't put us in a situation where we're crashing with a lot of supply on the market and not enough demand to fill it. But what that looks like and how long everybody has to wait is going to be quite a decision as we move forward. So we'll keep you updated on these calls. We also we have the chart that you wanted to share from that article about the effect on the market. Antonio will share that now. We'll just share that with everybody. We will also include this chart and the article that it came from in the comments of the video. We're recording the call right now, and we'll make sure that it's posted on my Smart Apartment Advisor YouTube channel. And then I'll send an email out on Friday after the second call with the links to both of these calls so that everybody can see and refer back to them if they want to share them or they want to look at it again. But it'll all be available. Antonio, do you want to do that chart?
Yeah, so I was just sharing that chart just a moment ago here. I just want to make sure that it's actually working for you.
I saw it, Antonio.
You saw it? It was up. It was up, JJ.
Oh, it was up. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, that chart summarizes everything I was basically saying of withdrawn transactions, less listings and less closings, and more canceled transactions. So it's just this is the environment we're in right now. And this is San Mateo, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey counties, but I'm imagining these are the same across Alameda, across San Francisco as well. So very similar numbers.
Okay.
So yeah, if anybody has questions, please let us know. Be happy to chat and have it be free form.
Yeah, and everybody's unmuted if they'd like to speak.
Anybody questions, comments, lottery numbers?
Hi, JJ. This is Priscilla. Can you hear me?
Hey, Priscilla. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. I have a question. I don't know if this is related. I guess it goes to tenant retention, but because I don't interact with my tenants anymore, I'm feeling kind of funny about not having communicated at all to them during this time, and wondering if I should send out a letter to them just saying that, you know, I appreciate them, I'm concerned about them, wondering how they're doing and all that. And so if you have any suggestions for that.
Well, we would be happy to help facilitate that if you'd like us to be the conduit. If you want to contact them directly, you're welcome to do that as well. We did send an email at the beginning of all of this when the shelter in place was announced and there was the moratorium on evictions was announced, to tell people that we were, you know, here's how we were changing our practices and our property management practices to have the office locked, and we weren't going to be doing as much non-essential maintenance work and things like that. So your tenants have heard from us, and I will continue to let all of our tenants know as we have important things to announce. But if you would like to make a personal note, you can send it to me and I'll send it to them for you and relay all the information. Or you could certainly reach out to them directly, but I could do it with a couple of clicks of the button if you'd like me to. So it's entirely your choice. Any other thoughts or concerns or jokes or current events?
JJ, I had a question.
Yeah.
Just for a comparative kind of analysis, you said 93% of rent checks are in, you know, for the month of April. What's it like your you know, a regular month? Like what is it, 98?
It's probably, yeah, probably 97, 98%, something like that. I would say, you know, the only three that are not directly related to this are just people who didn't pay their rent yet. And so we're reaching out to them, but that's really everything right there. Yeah, it is really good. I've got a chat question here. If a tenant does not pay because of COVID-19, is the tenant still liable? Yes. The tenant is still liable. The way that the procedure works is like those three that haven't paid yet. If they do not pay, we're still able to serve a 3-day notice. We can also, if the 3-day notice expires, we can you know, begin the unlawful detainer process. The tenant has 7 days after a payment is missed to make their claim. So at this point, everybody whose rent was due on the 1st has needed to step forward and say, I need help and here's my proof. If a tenant just says, gee, I can't pay and it's because of COVID-19, but they can't provide us with any paperwork, we typically will proceed with the eviction process because it's not really adequate. I need to see something that says they're not able to pay and it's directly related to this, something from a company that shows that they were laid off. Most of the time, this is pretty straight and self-explanatory. I worked at a bar. The bar can't open, they're not paying me. End of the conversation. Or, you know, my office is not open and therefore I can't pay. I don't have any money. So really the procedure is to get that paperwork within 7 days, and then the tenants will have 6 months from it's the end of the shelter-in-place order to pay each payment. And there's like a rolling procedure. We can go over this more in detail on Friday when Denise is on the call to talk a little bit more about the emerging legal and regulatory environment and what the different city government agencies are telling us. But at this point, you know, they've got a particular schedule for when the rent payments need to be made. And once we find out how much rent there really is that's unpaid, we'll be able to sort of make decisions about how much we want to discount it in order to get paid sooner, and what kind of incentives we want to make for people. Because obviously, if people don't have the money, you know, we're all still in a position where tenants who aren't paying rent now because of COVID-19 may stay through the entire shelter in place and then just leave. In which case, you know, we're left holding the bag, which is unfortunately part of our business. So that's a little bit more about that. And Wesley, if you want to join us on Friday, you can get a more detailed explanation as well.
And Kevin, I would also add that, so I'm a co-owner of some properties in Oakland, and it's a little worse. I'm seeing about a 20% reduction in payments. So I love a 93% right now. So that's pretty good. So my threshold in my mind, I don't want to go over 30%. 30% starts to get really dicey in terms of maintaining expenses and all those things and needing relief from other sources myself. But 20% is right out of the gate is not great. Yeah.
Hey, JJ, it's Chris and Allison here.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, thanks. Maybe a question to you and Josh. What about renewals, rent renewals and increases upon annual renewals? Are those, I assume that those are under pressure right now in terms
They
of...
are, yes, they're, I don't know if that legislation was passed in Oakland, that there's a freeze on rent. So you can't increase the rent at this time. I mean, it wouldn't have been a good practice to increase the rent right now anyway. I believe that Aaron Peskin introduced a proposal to do the same in San Francisco. Right now I'm not processing those rent increases. Part of what makes that challenging is, and this is another thing that we're currently working on with the rent board and with the other property owners and managers in San Francisco, is when you have tenants who have been in place for a really long time, it doesn't matter what the rent increase amount is, the maximum rent increase amount, you're going to impose it every single time. And if their anniversary date happens to fall during this time, and you don't increase the rent, you're going to screw up their anniversary date, and then you're going to have to wait and have a new anniversary date. And so they're working right now to figure out what the best approach would be to notify the tenant that we would impose it if we were able to, but we're not doing it under the circumstances. And therefore, we want to preserve that anniversary date, and we'll issue the rent increase at a later time when it's appropriate.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks.
Any other thoughts or suggestions or ideas? If you have specific things you'd like me to talk about further in another call, I'd be happy to discuss them as well.
One other question occurred to me, JJ, and Josh was talking about how touring of listings is really limited now for safety reasons, or not allowed, depending on whether it's occupied or not. If it's occupied, then yeah. So if we have a property management situation that needs immediate attention, a plumbing situation, for example, are you just telling the plumber to observe smart COVID protocol, and but could they please go in and fix that leak? What's your dialogue and practice around that kind of thing?
So right now,
yeah,
part of our practice has been eliminating the key checkout system that we have for vendors here in the office. So vendors can't come in, they can't pick up their keys. They need to make appointments directly with the tenant, and they're not doing any more maintenance work when tenants aren't home, which is easy because everybody's home right now. But at the same time, our vendors are observing, the necessary practices. My maintenance personnel are wearing their RMC branded shirts with their names on them, and their masks and gloves and everything, and washing up a lot. And we're still doing maintenance. We had a bunch of a whole lot of maintenance that didn't happen the first couple of weeks of this, and then it started to come back in the last week or two, where people started asking for maintenance a little bit more. So that was encouraging that at least people were asking for it, because I would really prefer that people not allow maintenance issues to persist longer than they need to, because it gets worse and worse. So yeah, right now that's what we're doing. And our plumber, for example, is doing a good job of making those appointments and coordinating scheduling and everything So yeah, that's what we're doing for maintenance.
And that's great to know. Good practice.
All right. Give everybody just another minute in case somebody thinks of something. But
Jay?
yeah, Bert.
Bert, I got a question for you. We're hearing from District 5 supervisors and some others this narrative of rich landlords and corporations. And
Yes.
I'm curious, what statistics do we have that would relate to the reality of mom and pops, less than 3 units and stuff like that, or in that range, that kind of statistic? Is that, do you have anything like that for San Francisco? I have national figures, but I don't have anything for local.
Oh, I think in San Francisco, the apartment association would have that information, readily at hand. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but just the general membership of the apartment association is a pretty sizable group. I can ask for those statistics if you'd like to have them. I know that Janan and Brooke Turner at the Coalition for Better Housing and all of the people that I know who are involved with City Hall on these issues is well aware of those things. Unfortunately, supervisors like Mr. Preston don't like to talk to us anyway at all. They don't even give us the time of day. So it's pretty disappointing.
Well, right now, he's the biggest narrative in the city.
Well, he certainly likes to make people think that, or to say things that will try to make it so. I mean, he's trying to suggest that the city forced landlords to just forgive rent, which would be great if we could also just have the city forgive the property taxes and have Recology forgive the trash bill and the PUC forgive the water bill, and the mortgages can be forgiven too. That would be great. If we could do that and just have everybody have no money, that'd be great. I have another question here. I have a very low rent in another rental property. Can you send a letter to raise rent with an anniversary date on June 1st? The answer is no, you shouldn't. And I believe we have that rent freeze in effect in San Francisco anyway. You wouldn't be able to enforce it in any particular way, though what you would normally do is send a rent increase, and then if they don't pay it, you can send a 3-day notice for non-payment of rent. I think that the most that I would recommend doing would be once again sending that letter to the tenant that says, under normal circumstances, we would have sent you a rent. This letter would be a rent increase, and these are not normal circumstances. These are unforeseen, highly unusual circumstances. And we're not going to raise your rent right now, but we would like to notify you that we would like to preserve that June 1st anniversary date so that we're not pushing that anniversary date out later and later in the year. And from there, just wait until the coast is clear and issue the rent increase at a later time and say, this is retroactive to June 1st. Not that you're going to collect the rent going back to June 1st, but that I reserve the right to increase the rent next June 1st, for example.
Well, mention one more time about our Friday call, JJ, just to remind folks who will be having on Friday's call.
Oh yeah, so I'll be there on Friday's call. I will give some of the same information, but I'm also going to have Denise Ledbetter, one of our well-respected attorneys in the industry, who's been in on a lot of the conversations with the city departments, with the rent board and the board of supervisors and all the different city agencies to talk about, and the mayor, to talk about what the mechanics are going to be for, as we talked about in our call last week, securing these agreements. If you want to have a rent forbearance agreement that says, I've now not received X number of dollars of rent, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 worth of rent from this residential tenant, and then you have to go through with an unlawful detainer in order to get a stipulation for entry of judgment, where the tenant is then required to make the payments that they agree to in that forbearance agreement. Otherwise, the sheriff can be called to evict the tenant. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about, the first big question that still hasn't been answered is, when do you file such a lawsuit, and how do you get a rent forbearance agreement when there's an ongoing likelihood that the balance is going to grow? If you have a tenant who doesn't pay their April rent and it's $3,000, and you hit them with a lawsuit today, which can still be done even though the courts are closed, how do you determine or change the arrangement in May when that rent also doesn't come in? So we have to figure out when this all gets done and how to make sure that it's done correctly. So she's going to tell us about that and tell us about the ongoing political climate and how we're adjusting and approaching that.
Hey, JJ.
Yeah, hi,
Thank you
Jerry.
for doing this. So just a question on the 7% that haven't made their payments yet.
Yes.
Have you already notified the building owners or the landlords themselves of that situation,
Yes.
or is that forthcoming?
Yes. If your question is, are any of them your tenants? The answer is no. Yeah, we don't have, we've notified the owners. Everybody else can basically assume that they're going to get their rent this month in full. Yeah, we've told everybody.
All right, thank you.
Sure. All right, well, with that, I guess it's probably as good a time as any to wrap it up. As I said, I'm going to post this on our YouTube channel on the Smart Apartment Advisor. I'm going to send an email to everybody, and you can go to our website at rmcsf.com and find the link to that channel. You can call me, you can email me anytime. I'm available. It's never a problem. I'm happy to chat with any of you individually. If you have other specific personal questions you want to share on a call with 30-something other people. But thank you very much for joining us today. It's great to see that all of you are here and joining us, and really appreciate your confidence and trust in us. And I'll keep you posted with more good information as time goes on. Thank you very much, everybody.
As we used to say in the old days when we had radio,
Yep.
same time, same place, same station.
That's right. Same bat time, same bat channel, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Early part of the conversation. He's part of his management staff. Those are clients, I guess. Leave the meeting.